Hope everyone is staying warm out there. Here in California, it's pretty cold, but Skylar, who's our designer, is actually in Canada, so I feel always guilty complaining about how cold California is when Canada is actually cold. All right, and I think we can get started. Oh, Skylar says it's really warm here. I'm curious what curious what that means. Oh, okay, it's not. Sarcasm is kind of hard. Um, yeah, San Francisco is extremely cold, like just in general, like year round. Uh, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for joining. Like I said, we have a lot to cover, so we're gonna go relatively quick, but obviously thorough. So first up is we're gonna obviously give you updates on the hashing algorithm. So if you've been part of this community, this is not news to you that Ironfish is working towards a new hashing algorithm. The hashing algorithm that was selected by the voting process was called Fish Hash by Loli Diab, and Matt from our team is going to be giving some updates on what is happening with the hashing algorithm and some of the updates there. So Matt, do you want to hop on stage here? Or Daniel? I'm not sure who's doing that section. Daniel, are you doing the... Okay, Daniel's doing it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so we did have a lot of updates, which we gave in our weekly mining call, the weekly miners call, which is on Tuesday. Next week, it's going to be on Tuesday at a little bit different time. I think 11 p.m. Pacific time, which is more in the morning for European time. So the updates from that were, as some of you know, we already have a C++ implementation from LollyDiab, and Matt and I have been working on creating a Rust implementation from that, since it'll be easier to put into our code. And we actually have that finished by this week, so I'll paste the GitHub link for anyone who's curious about that. And there also are a couple ways that you can test mining on this new algorithm that I know so far. So LollyDiab has released the new algorithm as part of LolMiner version 1.78. I'm not exactly sure how to test it with LolMiner 1.78, but if you have any questions, just ask in the mining channel. I'm sure we can figure that out if you're curious on testing the algorithm. And I know that Hero Miners has also added an ability to test the algorithm against their pool. So I'll paste a link to Jacob's message in the mining channel for that as well. Our current work that's being done, we're talking to a couple auditing firms about auditing the hashing algorithm for both security and to make sure that there are no optimization backdoors. We obviously trust LollyDiab with the algorithm, but I think for anyone else, because we want to operate in a trustless environment, we just want to make sure we have extra eyes on anything that we're putting out on DomainNet. So we're talking to 2 auditing firms right now, and we probably should have a quote in that finalized by the end of this week. We've started a testing group. If you're interested in joining the testing group, you can reach out to Dirty Miner Edwin, either directly or in the mining channel, and we can add you to that testing group. But yeah, it seems like things are going along really smoothly, so we're really happy that we're going to be integrating the algorithm into testnet soon, now that we have all the code for the algorithm mostly complete. I'll paste those links. And that's it for the algorithm, so I'll hand it off to Dan to talk about the Node app 2.0.
Hey everybody, can y'all hear me?
Not real. I mean, we can hear you, but you're very muted. Like it's
How
very
about
quiet.
how about now?
That's much better. Thank you.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna give an update on the Node app 2.0 project, which is essentially a rewrite of the Node app that we released earlier in the year. So first, I just want to start with why we're doing a rewrite of this project so soon. Basically, like when we started the original Node app project, we didn't really have a pattern for how to communicate with like the core Ironfish node. So the existing Node app replicates a lot of what the RPC layer does. So to take a step back, Ironfish, the way that you use Ironfish when you're using the terminal is you're using the CLI, which is where you write your terminal commands, and that uses this RPC layer to actually talk to the Ironfish SDK. And the RPC layer is doing a lot of work, and it's doing a lot of great work actually that currently the Node app does not reuse. So we are essentially aligning the new Node app 2.0 to do things more like the CLI so that we're actually using this shared language to communicate with the node, which means actually less work that we have to do to maintain the node app. And essentially we're doing like upfront work to be able to ship features faster later on. And as Jason, our leader here at IF Labs, said in a meeting, it's just better. So the Node app 2.0 project is actually going to be essentially at feature parity with the current Node app, except one thing that we are going to be launching with, which is pretty exciting, is multi-language support. So we're going to be adding support for Russian, Mandarin, and Ukrainian at launch. And we have the ability to add additional languages later on, but we're going to be adding those three for that V1 launch. And we are happy to announce that we are targeting early January for the release date for the Node app 2.0. So yeah, I'm super excited about that and keep an eye out for that project. And next up, it's going to be Jason talking about the mobile wallet project.
So I see many people in our Discord kind of talk about how Ironfish is, a great product. They're mining, they're doing all these kind of things, and they're collecting coins. But a lot of people kind of struggle to kind of use the wallet CLI, especially if you're a miner and maybe you're a little bit less technical. We hear you. We understand that you want easier tools to manage your coins. A lot of people are asking for things like a mobile wallet. And yes, we do have a Node app, but it's still a bit more technical to use. So um, we're actually in kind of early stages of exploring mobile support. If you remember, Skylar put out into the Discord a poll about what people would want for a mobile app. I've done some early kind of design reviews around the mobile app, and actually to kind of present what a mobile app for Ironfish would look like. I'm personally very excited for the future of this project, but we are interested in tackling the problem of making Ironfish easier to use. So the Node app is obviously that Dan just spoke about is one important piece of that, trying to make it easier, faster, run better, and to support, just to repeat that, Mandarin, Russian, Ukrainian at its launch, which hopefully should be soon. But we're also interested in more than just improving the Node app and adding a mobile wallet, which we think will be huge for the project. I know that Sapling has just announced that there's Ledger support, and a lot of people have asked, like, why can't we have Ledger for Ironfish? Well, actually, there is some promise that for privacy projects, Ledger is possible to implement. And we're looking at Ledger support for Sapling and seeing if, that's doable for Ironfish as well. We're pretty sure it is. So, I've also heard a member of our community say they were very interested in building Ledger support, which excites me a lot. So I personally think that's very exciting. And I think that is just what I wanted to say, because I constantly see this topic brought up, which is like, I want easier tools to use, and we are working on addressing that. So we'll let you know when there's more progress on this front. I'm going to pass it over to Hugh to actually talk about multi-signature wallets, which is also an exciting topic.
Yeah, so we're in the process of adding multi-sig support to Ironfish wallets. And for those who are not familiar, a multi-sig wallet is the ability for multiple account holders to collaboratively sign transactions. And in particular, we're implementing what's known as threshold signatures. And in the case of threshold signatures, you might have a certain number of signers in the group, usually denoted N, but let's say you have 5 signers, and you can define the threshold number E. So say 3 out of 5 signers have to sign a transaction in order to generate a valid signature. So adding multi-sig support is a requirement for a lot of parties who might like to build on top of Ironfish, and it's a frequent requirement for bridge operators. So we've been working on adding multi-sig support over the last month or so. And at this point, we can say that we've built a functioning proof of concept for multi-sig. And that has confirmed for us that we'll be able to add multi-sig support to Ironfish wallets without needing a hard fork. So this will be only changes to the Ironfish wallet and additional RPC capability for Ironfish wallets. And I'll turn it back over to Jason.
Hello. So when we started this effort and we launched April 20th of 2023, which is getting close to a year now, actually, very exciting. IF Labs, well, really, it was just Ironfish in the beginning, was the primary kind of developer of the product. And what we're actually seeing now is kind of an increased amount of decentralization for the project that is very, very good for Ironfish. So what I mean by that is we had a lot of open source contributors over the course of the project. But also, if you look, the newest hashing algorithm is not made by any original developer of Ironfish, which is very good. And we're actually really excited about this. So I just want to kind of comment on, our efforts to actually increase decentralization in the project. Like, we have a grants program, and we would love for you to apply to grants. I know the foundation is actually trying to clarify the grants program, and I think they'll probably mention a bit about that later. But we are working toward decentralizing a lot of the project while we're creating more reference implementations with very little IF code lab kind of baked in. We've also been removing IF Labs specific code, which is the development company, from the actual repository. A couple of PRs ago, we actually removed all of the kind of like AWS uploading commands from the repository. We also removed the standalone CLI wallet from the SDK repository. We moved that out into other repositories. Anything that kind of was like very specific and not core protocol, we've actually been moving out in an effort to keep the repository kind of pure and simple for people to learn and also start contributing to. So we would love for you to kind of contribute and open up PRs. And if we can make it easier for you, let us know. There are some contributors in here that I know have merged in pull requests. WDO21 has definitely had contributions in the past. So I'm seeing people in the audience now that are external contributors, and we love that. We would love to see more of it. So if you have any ideas how to continue those efforts, we have our developer channels. You can just ping the foundation anytime. Just let us know. Thank you. And now I'll pass it off to Elena to talk about some exciting work.
Awesome, thank you. So I think a lot of you have asked for our updates on the bridge side. So just to recap, I think for the people that are here, I think you actually do know what we're trying to build here at Ironfish. But I've noticed that in the larger audience for Ironfish, sometimes people forget exactly what we're trying to build here. And for Ironfish, we are trying to build a privacy layer that can support assets from all other chains. In order for us to get there, we need bridges. So we have been talking to a number of bridge operators, and I think a lot of people have been asking for some of the updates there. And so while I can't say specifically like, or commit to deadlines or exact partners, I do want to give you guys a little bit more of an update there. So we have been talking to quite a number of bridges. I think the top 3 that we are talking to right now is Axelar for an Ethereum bridge, Thesis again for the Bitcoin bridge, and Chainport. They're more of a centralized bridge, but they support basically all of EM chains as well as Solana, I believe Cosmos as well, and Cardano. So there's kind of various chains or bridge operators that we've been talking to. Because we are not an EVM chain, and on top of that, because we are not a smart contracts platform, it is going to be a bit more difficult for these bridge operators to integrate with us. And so there's actually a lot of effort on the engineering side at Ironfish to make sure that we can either emulate or kind of provide the tooling that those bridge operators might need in order to support Ironfish. So that's actually part of the reason why some of these conversations have either been going kind of slow, or maybe not slow per se, but like more involved in terms of understanding the technical kind of requirements that it would take. But yeah, so in terms of that, there are other bridges that we have talked to in the past that might have been interested, but maybe not fully committed. There are some new bridge operators that we've actually started talking to like as of today, but those conversations are early, and so I don't want to kind of overpromise and underdeliver. So the 3 that I mentioned were kind of like probably most kind of connected to and are most likely to happen. And then the other ones are like too early to tell. So I think a lot of other people have also asked about security concerns when kind of either working with bridges or integrating within a bridge and so on. Everyone that we are talking to in terms of like the teams that we've kind of chosen to talk to, et cetera, in my opinion, have all have a pretty high engineering bar. And we we fully understand the architecture of those bridges, especially since we would have to not only integrate or help them integrate Ironfish into it, but potentially even do a lot of work on our end to make that work. So we're very, very familiar with the architectures of these bridges. And so we kind of deem them safe from that perspective. Also, bridges like Axelar and Thesis have been kind of in the wild for quite some time. And so they've proven out just due to time that the engineering there is good. So again, nothing is set in stone yet. We are talking to those 3 in particular. Our goal internally is, Q2, Q3 of next year to have fully mainnet bridge. And I know that sounds like a long time, but again, firstly, we're kind of end of year and going to holidays, but because Ironfish is a not EVM compatible chain, it's not a smart contract chain, there is going to be more engineering effort involved to get it to work. And a lot of that code would have to be custom on the bridge operator side as well. And so even though the deadline or the timeline might seem a little long, there's just so much work that's going into making this happen. That's kind of what's driving that timeline. Cool. So the next update I want to give is about grants. So we have heard like feedback quite often from people that they're confused in terms of what they can apply, like what kind of project they can apply for a grant to, or like people are confused in terms of like what can they ask in terms of payment, because there's not really an example set. So we are changing that a little bit. So just yesterday we added an FAQ page on the grant section that kind of gives people an idea of some of the small, medium, large projects they can apply to, and what would the payout be, and some of the examples that would fit into those categories. We'll be doing a lot more to actually clarify that so that it's kind of more surfaced up there, and kind of giving people a very clear idea in terms of like what they could expect in terms of payout. Some of our community members have already done a lot of work for Ironfish, and so a lot of that it can be retroactive. So for instance, if you have this really amazing project that's already live, then you can certainly come to us and say like, hey, this actually is already done, but I would still like some sort of compensation for it. Then we're more than happy to to look into that as well. The other update is that the updated white paper version is finally live. So it is on the website right now. It's been a long time coming. We certainly should have launched it a lot sooner, but now it is there, and we're really happy that it's finally out there. So what are the big differences between this white paper version versus the old one? The old one was written like literally years ago. Like when the project was started, that white paper was written like literally 4 years ago, a very long time. And we haven't really updated it since. So some of the biggest updates were obviously the multi-asset. We've added a lot into Ironfish to make sure that it can support custom assets. We also added a lot in terms of the view key capability, and kind of amended a lot from the original sapling protocol to make sure that Ironfish is easier to use, honestly, more compliant. Oh no, we have a 404 button. Thank you, Nick, for catching that. We'll fix that. But yeah, so the new white paper is live. It's the same link as the old link, but all the content is new, and we do plan to keep it as a live or like as a living document. So, for instance, we're kind of treating this white paper almost as a spec per se. So what I mean by that is, if you look at the protocol section for cryptographic primitives, like it's very specific in terms of here's like all the points that we use in the paper or in the reference implementation for Ironfish. Here's exactly how certain things work. So it might be a little bit more granular than you might expect a white paper to be. And it's not 100% complete. So for instance, the governance section, the glossary section right now, as you can see, is empty. And part of the reason that there is we're still finalizing those sections. But I think it's actually important to make sure everything's together. So that's why governance section isn't part of the white paper, which is somewhat atypical for a white paper to have. But we do think it is important for people to know a project as from like a holistic view. So very exciting in terms of how it turned out. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. It definitely took us a long time, and it was a group effort from a lot of team members there. So really happy that it's finally out there. All right, and now I'm going to pass it over to Kelly, who's going to be talking about our thoughts on how to approach the ambassador program. Kelly?
Great, thank you. Yeah, so as most of you know, we have been building out our community manager team. And so now we have 4 community managers, moderators. And with that, we are going to be reviving and revamping our ambassador program. So we don't have all the details yet, but we will be setting something up for you to apply later this year, and we will be launching in the new year. Would love feedback from anyone in the community who's interested. If you have ideas or things that you would like to see in the ambassador program, please reach out to one of the community moderators and stay tuned for applications. We're excited to get this program up and running again.
All right, awesome. Next is Raul.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, awesome. So I'll go over this quickly since we have only a couple minutes left. But last week, we've noticed a few users getting stuck when creating transactions. And we think the root cause is because there are a ton of notes of small denomination, and then like creating the transaction to merge those notes and creating the proofs for those notes like takes a while. And so this is a note selection problem, and we're working on like coming up with a solution. We've shipped already a couple of things that will be helpful for our users. One of which is a better transaction summary. So before you send a transaction, you should see a transaction details like table that will tell you how many notes that you're sending and also like the expiration of the transaction. So that should help us debug or help you and us debug like what's going on with that transaction and why it's taking a long time to send. Another thing that we've shipped already is you can now select notes when sending a transaction. So this can basically, like, let's say you're sending a transaction of 100 iron, and you want to you want to select like 2 of these notes that have a lot of iron in them. So you can do that now. Um, uh, Along with that, another thing that's out there already is the ability to like filter your notes by just the unspent notes. So you can use that basically to help you construct a transaction that will send. There are a few other things that we are looking into. One thing that will come out very shortly is a CLI command that helps you like combine notes. And so that'll come out in the next release. And since I'm short on time, like I'll leave it there if that works. I'll hand it over to you, Elena.
All right, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for that all that effort, Raul. You know, a lot of the questions I see in the questions channel and general channel even and so on are people complaining that, you know, they can't send a transaction. They're like, oh, but I'm only trying to send like 100 iron or whatever, or like whatever that amount is, and not being able to actually have that transaction go through. So that's a huge pain point that we're finally addressing. I'm really glad to see that the team has come up with not 1 but 5 solutions how to address this problem, some of which I've already shipped and some that are shipping quite soon. So very, very exciting. All right, so I think we're actually 1 minute over. If you guys have any questions, please use the chat in the next 30 seconds or so for us to address them. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and close this out. Thank you everyone for coming. This has been quite a busy month for us, and the next month, despite the holidays, is going to be quite busy as well. But in case, well, I guess we're not going to see you until next year. So happy holidays, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy, whatever holiday you celebrate. It's been kind of a wild year, and the next year is going to be even wilder. So very excited to for the entire team to take a much needed break, and hit the road running in the next year as well. That's right, 2024, let's go. Thank you, Jerusalem Kunger, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's really great to hear from all you guys as well. All right. I guess we'll see everybody in the next year. Happy holidays.